Om. I am invincible, irresistible, and infallible. I am fearless, flawless, and full of grace. I am omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent. I am second to none. Why am I saying these things? We have to look at the teachings of dropping the ego and reflect on what that actually means. And is there any substance to this, or is it another religious dogma that we have to transcend? Well, first of all, who's dropping the ego and who says that? There's nothing but the ego anyways. And there's two things going on here. There is existence and non-existence. If you want to drop the ego, you're moving into non-existence. If you want to exist, there is nothing here but a giant ego anyways. What do you think the identity of God is? The identity which has created and sustains and does or does not transform this world is nothing but an ego. So you have to understand that evolution in terms of existence is, in fact, an ego is building up the ego, or removing the blockages that prevent the greatest ego from being realized, ego or identity. I am omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent. I am invincible, irresistible, and infallible. I am beauty and auspiciousness personified. I am prosperity. I am preeminence. This is ego. This is when you look at God, when God is declaring themselves. You have it in the Bhagavad Gita, other places as well. All these glorious traits. This is defining themselves in terms of an identity. This is ego. So just be very clear about this. When you're talking about dropping the ego, and this is a path that you are pursuing, that's fine, but know where the orientation or trajectory is leading you towards. That is for somebody who is not interested in existence. That is for somebody who is interested in non-existence. It can also be used as a tool to bring yourself to establish yourself in that silent state. However, knowing on the back burner that if I wish to exist as a 200% life, or exist in a completeness, as a wholeness, because is God non-existence? They are, but also we look around and they also exist. It's a simultaneous expression. Both are true. So if you want to live in this place holistically, you have to take both. That's why they talk about this concept of the middle path. I would actually change perhaps and reflect on going to the extremes simultaneously. So maybe not the middle path, maybe it's simultaneous extremes. These are some things to think about, but in general, I would say is don't take anything without chewing and swallowing it first. Always use the power of your reflection, an acknowledgement that inside of you is the source. You are the source. You are God, as they say. And again, the problem with God is that we have a common association with it outside of it being the highest that is possible, is that it is outside of ourself. Never forget, be still and know that you are God. That is within you. Be still and know that you are God. Identity. Embrace the divine identity. Feed the divine identity. Nourish and nurture the divine identity. How do you do that? One way that I'd like to do that, and I've taught this in my past videos, is I have notebooks. So I keep this notebook near me. I read it at least once in the morning, once in the evening during my morning and evening prayers. And also throughout the day, I'll go and skim some words. And I'll just plant this software inside of me, which is nothing but embracing my highest expression. So don't mistake dropping your ego for becoming a lobotomized being, a divine coma, as they say. That is non-existence. Must embrace both if you wish to be a creator, if you wish to sustain, if you wish to participate in existence. Now, this is an interesting topic as well. Do you have a choice? This is interesting. Yes and no. The answer to every question that I've mostly have found is yes and no, because there's always two sides to it. Yes, there's always a choice in terms of concept. In this case, could you off yourself, for example? But the problem is when you do that, you're not going anywhere. You're just going to go somewhere else. So they also say if you do that, then you have to come back and you have to redo this lifetime again. And so the fact of the matter is, whether you like it or not, you're playing the game whether you want to play the game, which is fortunate and unfortunate based on your subjective experience. So the best that you can do is be authentic to yourself and acknowledge who you actually are and go from there. Work on learning how to create and trying to dictate what it is. Now, at the end of the day, there is time, and we can't be in denial about time. So if you look around at everything, there's limits and there's not limits. Anything is possible, and yet what is happening is possible. It really is quite a rabbit hole to look into. So at the end of the day, what can you do? You can be silent and you can try to gain your power. You can try to, gain is probably the wrong word is to realize your power, realize your intelligence. And that is the best you can do for yourself. That is the best you can do for your family and your lineage. That is the best you could do for others in the world. Because the more people who do this will have a ripple effect. Look at yourself as a little, if you're familiar with acupuncture, look at yourself as a needle plugged into the body of the earth as a little acupuncture needle. And you are connected to the collective consciousness. So what you are vibrating with, the information that you are vibrating with and choosing to access and realize and identify with is very, very important. So this concept of identity is a very, very powerful and interesting subject. Identity is a very, very powerful. So don't deny that God is an identity. What we call as God is an identity. It is a crystallized set of information. It just so happens to be the highest in every category. But that's still an identity. Non-existence, as in there is nothing there, is completely gone. That is a non-identity situation. And if that's where you want to go and that's where you want to head, by all means, go there. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But just know, if you are desiring to participate in existence, if you do have things like this, you must build the super identity. You must realize the super identity. And how do you do that? Start indulging in it. So why am I saying this is because if you are having a dissonance between, oh, I shouldn't have an ego, oh, but I want to have these things, realize that is a dissonance. If you want to participate in your own life and you want to create things, you want to change the outside, you want to realize certain things, that is an identity. The outside world is simply a three-dimensional expression of your identity. Identity is simply a personification of the information that you are realized, that you have identified with. Can you change your identity? Yes, that's the point. You can change your identity at any time. You're not limited to the information. Changing the information is simply installing software. There's two parts of it. We talked about this before in the past videos. Building the foundation and then building on top of it. Building the foundation means be still and know that you are God. That is realizing the foundation from which you can wield silence. Wielding silence is wielding sound. Wielding sound is dictating intelligence, consciousness, and ultimately it is dictating matter, expression, all of this. So realize yourself, focus on and work on identifying with the silence, disidentifying with the thought process, identifying with the gap in between the thought process, the silence in between the words. When you find that gap, even for 1 second, you have made progress, and all progress is precious. Extend it to 1.1 second the next time. And what you do is anchor yourself, find the silence, and without causing stress, it's actually something you relax into as opposed to something you kind of squeeze. It is a relax into the silence. Hold it for 2 seconds. Focus on it and keep trying to extend this silence, and it will culminate. It will snowball. It's something that you have to work against the grain because we have been conditioned our entire life and beyond, including our ancestors. Multiple life of information that is telling us to think. You are the mind. Get caught up in the thought process and crank thoughts. Train yourself, work against the grain, and enjoy the results. You become the source itself. That which can and does create, sustain, and transform this reality. You will be the God in body. Be that and enjoy it. You deserve it. God bless.